In 2009, an entire family disappeared. A husband, his wife and their daughter were captured on security cameras, packing their things into the family car and driving off. This was the last time that they were seen alive. Although the vehicle was found 8 days later with most of the family's belongings inside, it took 4 years for their bodies to be found. They were laid next to each other, face down, in the middle of a forest. Today, you will learn about the mysterious case of the Jamison family. Bobby Dale Jameson was born on August 4th, 1965, and was married to Sherilyn Leon Jameson, born on November 5th, 1968. They met in 2002. The couple had a daughter named Madison Stormy Star Jameson, who was born the following year on August 1st, 2003. In addition to Madison, Sherilyn had an older son from a previous relationship who lived with them. The family also had a pet dog. They lived in Eufaula, a small town in Oklahoma, United States. Eufaula is really a small city, with less than 15,000 inhabitants. It was considered quiet and safe, with a below-average crime rate. Everyone knew everyone, and children could play in the streets without supervision. The family loved to travel, and they vacationed frequently. They were just a typical, normal family. Everything was fine until 2004, when Bobby was involved in a traffic accident which left him with irreversible damage to his spine. His injuries left him in terrible pain, which increased over time. He eventually had to take early retirement due to his disability. As a result, he was unable to live life as a normal functioning adult and became depressed. Subsequently, Sherilyn also ended up developing health problems. She too was diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. She was also unable to work anymore. The family survived solely on Bobby's retirement salary, which meant that they lived in fraught financial conditions. Family trips were no longer possible, and superfluous expenses were cut right back. They were left in straitened circumstances. Despite the Jamesons' outward appearance of normality, it is said that Sherilyn was somewhat eccentric. She referred to herself as a witch. She had a thick book that, according to her, was a kind of Bible for witches. She liked to rescue black cats from the street, but occasionally these creatures ended up dead. Sherilyn believed that the neighbours were poisoning the animals, so she spray-painted the following words on a container in the family's backyard. 3 cats were killed by people in this area. Witches don't like having their black cats killed. In 2007, Sherilyn's sister had a severe allergic reaction to a bee sting and died. The bite caused edema which blocked the air passage in her trachea. This tragedy left her distraught. To make matters worse, that same year her eldest son, aged 10 at the time, decided that he wanted to go and live with his father and left home. Although Sherilyn was undergoing treatment, taking various medications, these experiences made her feel that the drugs were not working anymore, and she decided, of her own accord, to stop taking them. With all these problems, the couple decided to move away and start their lives over again. They intended to buy a small plot of land, live on it in their container, sell the house, and use the money to build a small house on the newly purchased land. In 2009, they managed to find a good piece of land for sale in Red Oak, also in Oklahoma, an hour's drive from where they lived. The value of the land was under negotiation with the owner, and everything seemed to be going well until Thursday, October 8th, when something very strange happened. The Jamesons told some family members that they intended to visit the land to make some final arrangements. However, over that weekend and at the beginning of the following week, their family were not able to contact them. 9 days after they left home, on the 17th, the family's white pickup truck was found abandoned in the Red Oak region. The police were called, and when they arrived at the scene, they found most of the family's belongings inside the car, including clothes, bags, wallets, documents, cell phones, toys, and $32,000 in cash in a bag under the seat. In addition to all that, they discovered the family dog in very poor health, thin and dehydrated. This indicated that the car had been abandoned for several days. Despite the animal's delicate condition, she received help and recovered well from this episode. She was handed over to Bobby's mother, who took care of her. But there was no sign of the Jamesons. The police did not find any evidence that any type of crime had occurred, such as blood or marks from a physical struggle. But they did find a handwritten letter from Sherilyn which said negative things about Bobby, including that she hated him. The family was officially considered as missing persons. Bobby was 44, Sherilyn 41, and Madison 6. The couple's cell phones were examined, but nothing relevant was found on their social media pages, in their text messages or call histories. However, in the photo gallery on Sherilyn's cell phone, investigators found a photo of Madison, which had been taken on the 8th, the day they were last seen. The photo appeared to have been taken in the Red Oak region. When the photo was shown to the girl's relatives, they said that there was something strange about it. Madison loved to be photographed, yet in the image she appeared to be upset. It was as if she had been forced to pose for the photo. Sherilyn's diaries were found in the family home, and one of them contained words similar to those found in the letter. So-called occult books and other objects linked to witchcraft were also found around the house. Some sources even say that there were voodoo dolls buried in the backyard, but this information does not appear everywhere, so it is difficult to establish the veracity of this report. The investigators also discovered that the house had security cameras installed. When they viewed the images, they came across some very intriguing things. The couple went back and forth to the truck, several times in a strange way. They appeared somewhat catatonic, not talking or interacting with each other. Sometimes they went and came back without carrying any object, and the police began to suspect that they had been under the influence of some drug. Then, they picked up Madison, put her in the car, and left. Despite this suspicion about what they had taken, no drugs were found in the family's home or truck. When relatives were interviewed, they reported that they found it strange that the couple had $32,000 in cash in the car because the family had been going through a very difficult financial situation and they could not understand how they could have so much money. This made the police suspicious again that the couple were involved with drugs, but this time as drug dealers. When he learned of their disappearance, the pastor of the church the Jamesons attended contacted the authorities and said that the family had been going through serious spiritual problems. They all claimed to see and communicate with spirits, and that Bobby was very afraid of these apparitions. He had even asked the pastor if there was any special bullet to kill ghostly entities. He told the police that this was the real reason why the family intended to move from the property. Intense searches were carried out in and around the area where the truck was found. Forest areas and trails were checked by more than 100 searchers, including police, volunteers, relatives and friends, but nothing was found. Despite the efforts of the authorities, the case remained unsolved. No one knew where the Jamison family was, and over time public interest in the case declined. But everything changed 4 years later on November 16, 2013, when hunters found the remains of 2 adults and a child in a forest area less than 3 kilometers from where the truck had been abandoned. The bodies were in an advanced state of decomposition. They were all lying face down and perfectly lined up. Pathological material was collected and sent to forensics so that DNA tests could be carried out. On July 3, 2014, the test results confirmed that the bodies were indeed the remains of Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison. But the cause of their deaths could not be determined due to putrefaction. The coroner found a small hole in the base of Bobby's skull and reported that it could have been caused by a bullet hole, but he could not be sure. After their bodies were discovered and identified, many theories regarding the case were raised, and I will mention some of them to you now. The first theory is that it was revenge by one of the family's employees. Through statements made by family members, it was discovered that Sherilyn owned a firearm. Several years previously, she had used it during a fight with a boy who worked for the family. It was alleged that he had used racist language which made Sherilyn uncomfortable as she was of indigenous descent. During the argument, she was reported to have picked up the gun and fired a shot at the ground to scare him away. The employee ran from the scene and was never seen again. Despite many family members claiming that Sherilyn had a gun, it was never found by police. Regarding the employee, he was found, but eliminated as a suspect due to a distinct lack of evidence linking him to the disappearance or their deaths. The second theory proposes that Bobby's father, Dean, was the mastermind or executor of the crime. Dean owned a gas station, and Bobby occasionally worked there as a way to raise extra money, but his father always promised he would pay and never did. Tired of receiving so many demands, Dean threatened his son with death on 2 occasions, once in November 2008 and another in April 2009. After the second threat, Bobby sued his father and reported that Dean was involved with drugs, gangs, solicitation of call girls, and that he had been run over by his father after making his first threat in November 2008. Unfortunately, investigations involving Dean could not be carried out in any detail because he passed away some months after the family's disappearance, long before the bodies were found. The third theory is that the Jamesons were involved in drug dealing and were executed for unpaid debts. But this theory is unlikely because there was money in the car. The fourth theory involves spirits or supernatural phenomena in the family home. Sherilyn claimed to be a witch, and Bobby said that he could see spirits, so they may have been trying to exorcise some spiritual manifestation. Perhaps they came to believe that they couldn't escape this entity from the other world, and so they ended up taking their own lives. The fifth theory is that before arriving at their intended destination, they decided to stop to look around the area. They got lost and died of hypothermia. But this is a questionable theory, because they would not have gotten out of the car without the dog, without their cell phones, and were not found for 4 years, just 3 kilometers away from where the car was in 2009. Furthermore, there is the strange fact that the bodies were lined up, as if someone had placed them in that position. Which leads us to a sixth theory. The family was the victim of a crime. But why? It clearly wasn't a robbery since nothing was stolen. Unfortunately, all we have are hypotheses. There are no real clues that could shed light on the case. No suspects were formally charged or arrested. The cause of death could not be determined. Sherilyn's gun was never found. No one knows exactly why they had so much cash in their car or why Madison looked scared in her final photo. What happened to Bobby, Sherilyn and Madison on October 8, 2009 remains a mystery to this day.